Welcome. Please don't forget to subscribe. Today, we have the wonderful opportunity of educating young men with the profound wisdom found in the Book of Proverbs. Let us begin right away. Number 1. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8 to 9. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother, for they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck.
These verses highlight the dual role of both parents in imparting wisdom and moral instruction. The father provides direction and discipline, while the mother teaches principles and nurtures values. Together, their guidance forms a foundation for a righteous and meaningful life for their son. This is not just about obedience, but about cherishing their teachings as a source of lifelong wisdom. The teachings of parents are compared to beautiful adornments, an ornament of grace for the head and a chain around the neck. These metaphors symbolize honor, dignity, and the attractiveness of living a life guided by wisdom. Such teachings not only elevate the character of the child, but also make them stand out as a person of virtue and integrity in society.
Number 2. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 10 to 16. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, Come with us, let us lay wait for blood, let us lurk privily for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance, we shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them, refrain thy foot from their path, for their feet run to evil, and make haste to shed blood.
This is a direct and emphatic warning. When faced with the temptation to join sinners in their plans, do not agree. The verse recognizes the reality of peer pressure and the lure of sin, but urges the listener to stand firm and resist. Here, the sinner's intentions are exposed. They plot violence against the innocent, motivated by greed and a disregard for human life. The depiction of swallowing the innocent alive as the grave shows the depth of their wickedness. This verse in the Book of Proverbs teaches us that such schemes are rooted in destruction and are utterly detestable before God. The sinners promise riches and unity to entice others to join their evil plans. They appeal to greed and a sense of belonging, but their one purse symbolizes shared guilt and inevitable judgment. This reveals the deceitfulness of sin, offering temporary gain, but leading to lasting ruin. These verses warn against even starting on the path of the wicked. Once a person steps onto it, it becomes easier to follow their lead. The phrase, their feet run to evil, shows how quickly and eagerly they pursue wrongdoing. Their actions lead to harm, not only to others, but ultimately to themselves.
Number 3. Proverbs chapter 2, verse 1 to 5. My son, if thou wilt receive my words, and hide my commandments with thee, so that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom, and apply thine heart to understanding. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge, and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest her as silver, and searchest for her as for hid treasures, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord, and find the knowledge of God.
The journey towards wisdom begins with a willingness to accept and treasure God's word. To hide the commandments means to store them in one's heart, treating them as precious truths to guide one's life. This verse calls for active engagement, listening attentively and intentionally applying oneself to understand. It's not enough to hear wisdom. One must also align their heart and actions with it. The pursuit of wisdom requires earnest desire and persistence. Crying out for knowledge and lifting one's voice symbolize a heartfelt plea, showing how much we should value divine understanding. These verse compares the pursuit of wisdom to the diligent search for precious metals and hidden treasures. It implies that wisdom is invaluable and worth the effort it takes to find. Just as people spare no effort to gain material wealth, so should they passionately pursue wisdom. The result of this diligent pursuit is profound. Understanding the fear of the Lord, which is the foundation of wisdom. To find the knowledge of God means to grow in a deep, personal relationship with Him, aligning one's life with His will and purposes.
Number 4, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 1 to 8. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For length of days and long life and peace shall they add to thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord, and depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel, and marrow to thy bones.
This opening admonition stresses the importance of remembering and obeying God's commandments. To keep them with the heart implies more than external observance. It requires an internal commitment. The promised rewards, long life and peace, are blessings that come from a life lived in harmony with God's will. These verses call for total reliance on God rather than self-reliance. Trusting God with all your heart means surrendering every area of life to Him. Acknowledging Him in all your ways signifies seeking His guidance and honoring Him in every decision. In return, God promises to direct and make straight your paths, leading you in the right way. This is a call to humility and reverence. Being wise in your own eyes leads to pride and poor decisions. Instead, fearing the Lord and turning from evil results in spiritual, emotional, and even physical well-being. The imagery of health to the navel and marrow to the bones speaks to a deep restorative vitality that comes from living a godly life.
Number 5, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 11 to 12. My son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son in whom he delighteth.
These verses call for a humble response to God's discipline. To despise not meaning, not to reject or scorn his chastening, while neither be weary advises against losing heart or growing resentful when God corrects us. Discipline can be uncomfortable, but it serves a purpose: to refine, teach, and guide us toward holiness. God's discipline is rooted in His love, much like a caring father who corrects his child to guide them away from harm and towards what is good. It is not punishment born of anger, but correction born of love and delight. These verses reassure us that God's chastening is a sign of His commitment to our growth and His desire for our ultimate good.
Number 6, Proverbs chapter 3, verse 21 to 24. My son, let not them depart from thine eyes. Keep sound wisdom and discretion. So shall they be life unto thy soul, and grace to thy neck. Then shalt thou walk in thy way safely, and thy foot shall not stumble. When thou liest down, thou shalt not be afraid. Yea, thou shalt lie down, and thy sleep shall be sweet.
The passage begins with an exhortation to remain focused on wisdom and discretion, ensuring they are always in view. Sound wisdom refers to practical, God-given insight, while discretion involves careful judgment and self-control. Together, they are essential for navigating life in a way that honors God. Wisdom and discretion really bring life to your inner self and add a certain charisma to your outward character. This imagery shows that a life grounded in wisdom is not only spiritually rewarding, but also a model that others can look up to. Living with wisdom and discretion provides a sense of security and stability. The way in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 23 refers to the journey of life, and God's guidance ensures safety and protection from pitfalls, both moral and spiritual. These verses describe the peace that wisdom brings. Also worthy of note is that a life grounded in God's wisdom leads to freedom from fear and anxiety, allowing for restful, sweet, and sound sleep. It reflects the profound inner tranquility that comes from trusting in God's guidance and protection.
Number 7, Proverbs chapter 4, verse 10 to 19. Hear, O my son, and receive my sayings, and the years of thy life shall be many. I have taught thee, in the way of wisdom. I have led thee in right paths. When thou goest, thy steps shall not be straitened, and when thou runnest, thou shalt not stumble. Take fast hold of instruction, let her not go, keep her, for she is thy life. Enter not into the path of the wicked, and go not in the way of evil men. Avoid it. Pass not by it. Turn from it, and pass away. For they sleep not, except they have done mischief, and their sleep is taken away, unless they cause some to fall. For they eat the bread of wickedness, and drink the wine of violence. But the path of the just is as the shining light, that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. The way of the wicked is as darkness. They know not at what they stumble.
This verse begins with a plea by a father to the son, telling him to embrace his teachings. Wisdom is presented as a guide that not only leads to a righteous life, but also brings longevity and fulfillment. The right paths in Proverbs chapter 4, verse 11, are those paths that align with God's truth and moral integrity. Furthermore, a clear warning, the phrase, "stay far from evil," the repeated emphasis, "avoid it, pass not by it, turn from it," stresses the importance of proactive avoidance, which reflects the destructive nature of sin and the need for vigilance in steering clear of it. The wicked are depicted as being consumed by evil, unable to rest until they have inflicted or caused harm on others. Sin becomes their sustenance, as Proverbs chapter 4, verse 17 emphasizes on bread of wickedness and wine of violence, which symbolizes their deep entanglement in wrongdoing. This highlights the destructive and compulsive nature of sin. Here there's a comparison between the righteous and the wicked. The path of the just is like the dawn, growing brighter with time as it leads towards ultimate perfection and clarity in God's presence. In contrast, the wicked walk in darkness, unaware of the dangers that cause them to stumble. This vivid depiction highlights the joy of walking in God's light compared to the danger of living away from Him.
Number 8. Proverbs chapter 4, verse 20 to 24. My son, attend to my words, incline thine ear unto my sayings. Let them not depart from thine eyes, keep them in the midst of thine heart, for they are life unto those that find them, and health to all their flesh. Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. Put away from thee a froward mouth, and perverse lips put far from thee.
Here, the father urges his son to focus intently on wisdom. In Proverbs chapter 4, verse 20, the phrase, "Attend and incline thine ear unto my sayings," mean to listen carefully and make God's teachings a priority. By keeping wisdom constantly in view and treasuring it in the heart, it becomes an integral part of one's life and decisions. God's words bring life and vitality, not just spiritually, but also in the physical and emotional sense. Wisdom promotes well-being, peace, and harmony, fostering a healthier, more fulfilling life. We get to know that the heart is central to one's being. Keep thy heart with all diligence, as stated in Proverbs 4, verse 23, means to guard and protect the heart carefully, ensuring it is aligned with God's will. Since all actions flow from the heart, maintaining its purity and focus on righteousness, as it is important for living a godly life. And in Proverbs 4, verse 24, the power of words is highly regarded, as even the phrase, "a froward mouth," refers to a mouth with a speech that is rebellious or deceitful, while perverse lips signify corrupt or harmful talk. Purity in speech reflects the condition of the heart and aligns with the wisdom God desires.
Number 9. Proverbs chapter 5, verse 1 to 2. My son, attend unto my wisdom, and bow thine ear to my understanding, that thou mayest regard discretion, and that thy lips may keep knowledge.
In these verses, the father calls his son to pay close attention to his wisdom, which is rooted in divine truth. Attend unto my wisdom implies a focused and deliberate effort, while bow thine ear suggests a posture of humility and willingness to learn. True wisdom requires not just hearing, but actively submitting to instruction. The purpose of seeking wisdom is to develop discretion, the ability to make sound, moral decisions. This discretion leads to speaking words of knowledge and truth. A heart filled with godly wisdom will naturally result in speech that honors God and benefits others.
Number 10. Proverbs chapter 5, verse 20 to 23. And why wilt thou, my son, be ravished with a strange woman, and embrace the bosom of a stranger? For the ways of man are before the eyes of the Lord, and he pondereth all his goings. His own iniquities shall take the wicked himself, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sins. He shall die without instruction, and in the greatness of his folly he shall go astray.
In these Bible verses, the father questions why his son would pursue an illicit relationship with a strange woman, representing someone outside the bounds of God-ordained marriage. The word ravished conveys being captivated or infatuated, but this infatuation leads to destruction. The question clarifies the folly of choosing fleeting pleasures over covenantal faithfulness. Furthermore, God sees and knows everything. No action, thought, or intention is hidden from him. The phrase pondereth all his goings highlights that God evaluates and judges the paths we choose. This serves as both a warning and a call to live with integrity, knowing we are accountable to him. Sin is depicted as a trap that ensnares the wicked. The portrayal of being holden with the cords conveys how sin binds and enslaves those who indulge in it. What begins as a choice eventually becomes a prison, illustrating the destructive power of unrepentant sin. Here we get to know that the ultimate consequence of rejecting wisdom and instruction leads to spiritual and often physical death. The greatness of his folly emphasizes how a life lived in rebellion to God leads to ruin. Without turning to God's guidance, a person is doomed to wander aimlessly and perish in their own foolishness.
Number 11. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 1. My son, if thou be surety for thy friend, if thou hast stricken thy hand with a stranger, thou art snared with the words of thy mouth. Thou art taken with the words of thy mouth.
This Bible verse shows the concept of being snared and taken, which emphasizes the binding nature of one's words in such agreements. Once a commitment is made, it cannot be easily reversed, and the consequences can entangle and become burdensome.
Number 12. Proverbs chapter 7, verse 1. My son, keep my words, and lay up my commandments with thee.
This Bible verse encourages immediate action and humility. The son is advised to heed wisdom by honoring instructions and commandments. Also, to lay up means to treasure or store something securely, emphasizing the value of godly wisdom as a guiding principle in life.
Number 13, Proverbs chapter 23, verse 15 to 18. My son, if thine heart be wise, my heart shall rejoice, even mine. Yea, my reins shall rejoice, when thy lips speak right things. Let not thine heart envy sinners, but be thou in the fear of the Lord all the day long. For surely there is an end, and thine expectation shall not be cut off.
This is a promise of hope. The phrase, there is an end, signifies that life's trials and injustices are temporary, and God's justice and blessings are certain. The expectation refers to the confident hope of eternal reward and the fulfillment of God's promises. A life rooted in godly wisdom and fear will not lead to disappointment.
Number 14. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 19 to 23. Hear thou, my son, and be wise, and guide thine heart in the way. Be not among wine-bibbers, among riotous eaters of flesh. For the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags. Buy the truth, and sell it not. Also wisdom, and instruction, and understanding.
These Bible verses signify a call to active listening and decision-making, showing that wisdom begins with hearing and applying instruction. Guide thine heart implies taking personal responsibility for aligning one's desires and choices with God's ways, rather than being led by fleeting emotions or worldly temptations. Here, the Father warns against associating with those who live in haphazardly, sue as heavy drinkers, wine-bibbers, and gluttons. These behaviors not only harm the body, but also lead to poverty and ruin. Drowsiness refers to laziness or lack of discipline, which compounds the destructive effects of indulgence. The lesson here is clear. A life of restraint and discipline is essential for stability and success.
Number 15. Proverbs chapter 23, verse 26. My son, give me thine heart, and let thine eyes observe my ways.
In this Bible verse, this instruction emphasizes the importance of attentively watching and learning from the example of the Father, or, by extension, God. It encourages living by righteous principles and aligning one's actions with the wisdom revealed in God's Word.
Number 16. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 11. My son, be wise and make my heart glad, that I may answer him that reproacheth me.
Here the father urges his son to live wisely, not only for his own benefit, but also to bring joy and pride to his parents. A child's wisdom reflects positively on the upbringing they have received, showing the value of instruction and discipline. A wise and upright child serves as a defense against critics or adversaries who might mock or reproach the parent. The father takes joy and confidence in the son's wisdom, as it becomes a testimony of righteousness and a vindication of the family's values.
Number 17. Proverbs chapter 6, verse 20 to 25. My son, keep thy father's commandment, and forsake not the law of thy mother. Bind them continually upon thine heart, and tie them about thy neck. When thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleepest, it shall keep thee. And when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee. For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life, to keep thee from the evil woman, from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman. Lust not after her beauty in thine heart, neither let her take thee with her eyelids.
Here in this Bible verse, the statement, "My son, keep thy father's commandment, and forsake not the law of thy mother," is a heartfelt appeal to honor and obey parental teachings, particularly those rooted in godly wisdom and righteousness. It reflects the biblical principle that parents are entrusted by God to guide their children in His ways. The statement, "Bind them continually upon thine heart, and tie them about thy neck," is a metaphor that stresses the need to internalize wisdom and moral teachings. Binding them to the heart suggests they should influence thoughts and desires, while tying them around the neck implies they should guide outward behavior and decisions. The statement, "When thou goest, it shall lead thee. When thou sleepest, it shall keep thee. And when thou awakest, it shall talk with thee," is godly wisdom and instruction that act as a constant companion. They guide decisions during the day, provide peace and protection at night, and inspire righteous living upon waking. The statement, "For the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life," shows God's commandments illuminate the path of righteousness, much like a lamp dispels darkness. Reproofs and corrections, though sometimes uncomfortable, are vital for growth and staying on the right path. The statement, "To keep thee from the evil woman, from the flattery of the tongue of a strange woman," shifts to a warning against succumbing to temptation, particularly the seductive words of someone who leads others into sin. It cautions against being lured by deceptive charm. The statement, "Lust not after her beauty in thine heart, neither let her take thee with her eyelids," addresses the inner battle of lust, reminding us that sin often begins in the heart. Physical attraction or subtle seduction, example with the eyes, can be the first step towards falling for lust.
Number 18. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 20. A wise son maketh a glad father, but a foolish man despiseth his mother.
In this Bible verse, wisdom in a son brings joy to a father. This reflects the deep connection between a parent's happiness and the godly, responsible behavior of their children. Wisdom here implies living in accordance with God's principles, showing respect, maturity, and making sound decisions. Foolishness, on the other hand, manifests in contempt and disregard for a mother's guidance. This lack of respect wounds the mother, the very person who has nurtured him. Such behavior reflects a heart hardened against wisdom and love.
Number 19. Proverbs chapter 17, verse 25. A foolish son is a grief to his father, and bitterness to her that bare him.
In this Bible verse, foolishness here refers to a life lived without wisdom, discipline, or regard for God's ways. Such behavior brings sorrow and disappointment to a father who desires to see his son succeed in righteousness and integrity. The statement, "and bitterness to her that bare him," shows a mother who endures the pains of childbirth and invests deeply in raising her child, experiences profound bitterness when that child's actions lead to shame or destruction. Her joy turns to sorrow when her hopes for her child's well-being are unmet.
Number 20. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 20. Whoso curseth his father or his mother, his lamp shall be put out in obscure darkness.
In this Bible verse, we get to curse one's parents is not merely about using harsh words. It signifies a deep disrespect, rebellion, or rejection of their authority and role in one's life. In the statement, "His lamp shall be put out in obscure darkness," the lamp symbolizes life, guidance, and blessing. To have it put out in obscure darkness implies severe judgment, such as the loss of direction, joy, or even life itself. This reflects a life devoid of God's favor, marred by despair and destruction.
In conclusion, the Book of Proverbs is a treasure mine of timeless wisdom for sons and young men, encouraging them to walk in righteousness, seek wisdom, and honor their parents. Listening to these profound teachings allows young men to cultivate integrity, provide joy to their families, and live lives that reflect God's glory. Please do well to subscribe to Bible Guide now to stay updated with upcoming contents. Remain blessed